Hi, I'm Kevin and I'm a professional graphic designer based in Scotland. Today I am going to show you how to create this Fight Club inspired movie poster using some stock images and how to transform them into a spray paint stencil effect. Okay, so if you are ready, let's get started. The first thing we want to do is start gathering some images. So let's go to unsplash.com where we can get some royalty free images for this tutorial. Type brick wall into the search box. I want to find a wall that's been really weathered. This one is absolutely perfect. When you download it, select the original size option. I'm just going to type man face into the search box. You can download the two images that I use or feel free to use your own assets for this. Excellent, so now we can get started. Go to Photoshop and click on New File. In the document type drop down, select International Paper and size A4, then press OK. I will just save this document just now. Go to File, Save As, and I will call the file Grunge Movie Poster. Press Save. Go to the file where you saved the wall and two model images and bring them all into Photoshop. Let's start with the wall image. Click on the padlock in the Layers panel to unlock it. Go back to your original movie poster file, then drag the wall file down onto the artboard. Now let's drag the image into the movie poster file. I'm just going to zoom out so I can resize the wall texture. Press Ctrl or Command T on your keyboard to access the transform tool. Grab one of the edges and resize the image until you are happy with how it looks. Rename the layer Wall Texture. So let's go to the first model image. Go to the Layers panel and click on the little padlock to unlock it. Press W on your keyboard to make the quick selection tool active. We want to separate the face from the rest of the body and background. Make the tool size 10 pixels. Press return to get rid of that menu. Now let's drag the tool over the face to select it. As the beard, neck and shadow blend in slightly, I will need to remove those parts that got selected. So simply press and hold Alt or Option while you drag to remove those areas. Please remember that you don't have to have a perfect selection. To check your selection, press Q on your keyboard to see how it looks as a quick mask. Press Q again to revert it back into a selection. If you are happy with the selection, press Ctrl or Command J to copy the inside of the selection that you just made. It will now appear on its own layer. If you click on the icon on the top right of the Layers panel, click on the option Convert to Smart Object. Go to Filter, Filter Gallery. To zoom out in this menu, press Alt or Option plus the minus key, or use the options at the bottom left corner. Open the sketch folder and click on Stamp. Using the sliders on the right, we can refine the amount of detail that we want in our graphic. I'm happy with those settings. Press OK. If you would like to reveal more details in the black part of your graphic, make a copy of the layer by pressing Ctrl or Command J on your keyboard. Double click Filter Gallery of the copy to open the filter. Again, let's fit the graphic onto the preview window. Hold in Alt or the minus button to zoom out. Use the sliders again to bring out more black details. Don't be concerned about other parts losing some detail, as we will rectify this. Press OK if you're happy with the settings. I'm going to add an inverted layer mask to this layer by pressing Alt or Option and then clicking on the layer mask icon. Let's open the pencil tool. Go to the pencil picker section. Make sure the opacity and hardness are both set to 100%. You can press the left or right bracket keys on your keyboard, which will make the pencil bigger or smaller. Now draw over the areas that you want to restore. Double click on an empty section of the lower graphic layer, which will open the layer style panel. Click on Stroke. We want the size to be 16 pixels, position inside, blend mode normal, opacity 100% and the colour set to black. Press OK. Now let's hide the image at the bottom of the layers panel. Make the top layer active. Click on the new layer icon to create a new layer. We want to make a composite snapshot, so on Windows press Ctrl, Alt, Shift and E. On a Mac press Command, Option, Shift and E. There we go. Control or Command click the new layer icon to make a new layer under it. Press Ctrl or Command plus Delete to fill this layer with white. Make the snapshot layer at the top active. We want to fill the background in this layer with white. Press Shift plus the F5 key. Select white in the Contents drop down. In Mode, select Behind, and the opacity should be set at 100%. Click the layer mask icon to make a layer mask next to the active layer. Go to Filter, Render, Clouds. Go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Select the radius as 20 pixels. Press OK. Now let's open the levels by pressing Ctrl or Command L on your keyboard. Set the input shadow level to 80 and for the input highlight level 180. Perfect. We want to hide the layer mask at the moment, so Option or Alt click on that. Let's make the layer mask next to it active. Let's go to Filter, Blur, Lens Blur. Make the depth source map layer mask. You will see a change in the graphic as it's using the cloud layer mask as the source. Make sure the radius is set to 100 and the shape to pentagon. I'm happy for the rest of the settings to be kept at their default amounts. Press OK. Go to Edit then select Fade Lens Blur. Take the opacity down to 80%. Press OK. Now let's change the blend mode to dissolve. Press Ctrl or Command A to select the entire image. Press Ctrl or Command C to copy it. Press Alt or Option and click on the clouds layer mask to make it visible again. Press Ctrl or Command V to paste our graphic into this layer. I want to invert the layer mask. We can do this by pressing Ctrl or Command I. Now let's make the graphic active. The effect is coming together nicely. However, if we fill it with black, the effect will become more vivid. Press Option or Alt plus Delete, which will fill the layer. Shift click on the white layer below it. Press Ctrl or Command E to merge these layers. It still looks a bit dotted when viewed up close, so I'm happy to blur it a bit to get a more desired effect. Go to Filter, Blur and Gaussian Blur. 0.5 pixels should do nicely. Now let's go to the grunge movie poster file. Create a new layer. Go to Edit, Fill, and make sure the contents is white. Opacity is 75% and the mode is normal. Press OK. Press V to select the Move tool and go back to the model graphic layer. Drag the graphic onto the tab of the grunge movie poster file and without releasing the mouse, drag it down onto the artboard and then release. Change the blend mode to multiply. Open the transform tool by pressing Ctrl or Command T. At the very top, make sure the chain link is active as we want the graphic to maintain its aspect ratio. The other options allow you to reposition the graphic around the artboard or resize it. I want to make it smaller for now. I also want to put the graphic at a slight angle. That will do for now. Double click on an empty space on the model layer. We want to open the Layer Styles window. I want to use the Blend If filter to blend in the graphic. If you play about with the sliders, you will see some options that make the model disappear completely, whereas others make parts of the wall texture come through really nicely. Press Alt or Option. Click on the little triangle to split them. If you're following along with the same images as me, feel free to copy the credentials I enter. Otherwise, please play around with the sliders until you are happy with the balance in yours. I'm just going to click on the first model file and save it so that I can tidy up my workspace. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that and found it easy enough to follow along, because we're going to repeat those steps for model number 2. However, if you feel confident doing it yourself, please fire away and I will meet you later in the tutorial. Let's go to the second model image that we brought into Photoshop earlier. Go to the layer panel and click on the little padlock to unlock it. Press W for your quick selection tool. Just keep the same settings as we set earlier. Now let's separate the face from the rest of the body and backgrounds. Drag the tool over the face to select it. Just a reminder again that you don't need to be perfect with your selection. However, if you have parts that you want to remove, simply press and hold Alt or Option while you drag to remove those areas. To check your selection, press Q on your keyboard to view it as a quick mask. Press Q again to revert it back into a selection. I'm just going to quickly fix some imperfections. If you are satisfied with the selection, press Ctrl or Command J to copy the inside of the selection that you have created. As you can see, it will now appear on its very own layer. Above the Layers panel on the right, if you click on the icon, select the option Convert to Smart Object. Press X on your keyboard just to make sure the black is the foreground colour and white is now placed as the background. Go to Filter, then click on Filter Gallery. To zoom out, press Alt or Option plus the minus key, or use the tools at the bottom left corner. Go to the Sketch folder and click on Stamp. Use the sliders on the right to adjust the amount of detail. Press OK when you are happy with your settings. Make a copy of the layer by pressing Ctrl or Command J on your keyboard. Double click the Filter Gallery option to open the filter. Again, to zoom out, hold in Alt or Option plus the minus key. Use the sliders to fix the black details. Press OK. Let's add an inverted layer mask to this layer by pressing Alt or Option and then clicking on the layer mask icon at the bottom. Let's make the pencil tool active. Press X on your keyboard so that white is now showing as the foreground colour. Now draw over the areas that you want to restore. Pressing the left or right bracket on your keyboard will make the pencil tool bigger or smaller. Double click on an empty section of the lower graphic layer, which will open the Layer Style panel. Click on Stroke, and the settings will be the same as we had selected earlier, so you can just press OK. Let's hide the photo layer located at the very bottom of the layer panel by clicking on the eye. Go to the top layer and make that active. Click on the new layer icon to create a new layer. We want to create a composite snapshot, so on Windows press Ctrl, Alt, Shift and E, and on Mac press Command, Option, Shift and E. Perfect. Ctrl or Command click the new layer icon to make a new layer under the snapshot that we just created. We want to fill this layer with white, so press Ctrl or Command plus Delete, which will add the fill. Make the snapshot layer active. We want to fill this with white as well. Press Shift plus the F5 key. The settings we want are contents to be white, mode behind, and opacity 100%. Press OK. Click on the layer mask icon to make a layer mask next to the active layer. Go to Filter, Render, Clouds. Go back to Filter, Blur, then click on Gaussian Blur. Enter 20 pixels, then hit OK. Open the Levels panel by pressing Ctrl or Command L on your keyboard. Set the input shadow level to 80 and the input highlight level to 180. Let's hide the clouds layer mask for a bit, so hold Option or Alt and click on it. Let's make the layer next to it active. Go to Filter, Blur, then click on Lens Blur. The settings will have remained the same from what we entered for our first model. Press OK. Go to Edit, then select Fade Lens Blur. Reduce the opacity to 80%, then hit OK. Change the blend mode to dissolve. Press Ctrl or Command A to select the entire image, followed by Ctrl or Command C to copy it. Press Alt or Option and click on the clouds layer mask to make it visible again. Then press Ctrl or Command V to paste our graphic into this layer. Press Ctrl or Command I to invert the layer mask. Make the graphic active. You will now see the effect we want, starting to show similar to what we done earlier. If we fill the layer with black, the effect will look a lot better. Press Option or Alt plus Delete, which will fill the layer with black. Shift click on the two top layers. Press Ctrl or Command E, which will merge them both together. Again, like earlier, the issue we had was that the graphic looked quite dotted when viewed up close, so let's add some blur to get our desired effect. Go to Filter, Blur and Gaussian Blur. Enter 0.5 pixels. Press V to select the Move tool and without releasing, drag the model onto your movie poster file, then onto the middle of your canvas, then release. Change the blend mode to multiply. Open the transform tool by pressing Ctrl or Command T. Like earlier, play around with the settings at the top to make it a similar size to our first model. I also want to tilt it slightly, so I'll just grab one of the endpoints to do this. That will do nicely for the moment. Double click on an empty space on the current model layer to open the Layers Style panel. I'm going to use the Blend If filter to blend in the graphic to the texture. To separate the little triangles, press Alt or Option while dragging them apart. If you are following along with the same images as me, feel free to copy the same credentials that I use, otherwise just play around until you get your desired effect. Press OK. Head to the Model 2 file we had been working on. Let's save it so that we can remove it from our workspace. I'm really pleased by how the spray paint effect looks, as it has that urban grunge style I was looking for. However, there are a few rough sections I would like to remove just to tidy things up. Press E on your keyboard to select the eraser tool. I'm going to select a soft round brush. You can adjust the sizing as you work by pressing the left or right bracket button on your keyboard. I'm going to zoom right in for a better view. So click on the first model layer. I'm just going to brush out the blocky sections around the nose and top of the head. Yeah, I think that looks much better. Now let's go to the layers panel and click on model number 2. This image is a lot rougher than the first one. I think that will do. Press V to select your move tool. I'm just going to the layer panel to rename each layer to keep things organised. Name the wall layer wall texture and the two models model 1 and model 2 respectively. Perfect. Head over to fonts.adobe.com. You can download free fonts with your Adobe CC subscription. In the search box, type in Nexa Rust. I already have the fonts activated, but if you swipe the All Fonts Active slider on the top right, then these will activate for you. Let's head back over to Photoshop. Press T to make the type tool active. I want to add some actor credits at the top. Click on the artboard to start the text. In the character panel, I am using a font called Apparat, which I downloaded from Adobe Fonts, but I will be changing this later in the tutorial. I have set the font size to 62 pixels and the line height to 74 pixels. Click on the colour picker, input ED1290, which will create this lovely hot pink colour. Okay, so let's start inputting some actor names. You have a free rein to use whoever you would like. I'll go with Michael Fassbender. Go to your move tool and adjust the position. I'm going to go to the layers panel and drag that layer onto the new layer icon to copy it. Go back to the artboard to adjust the placing. Repeat this step 2 more times as we want 4 credits across the top of our poster. Press Shift on all 4 credit layers and drag the credits into a centered position. Let's rename the rest of the credits. Press T to activate the type tool. I'm going to enter Jack Nicholson. On the day I recorded this video, he reappeared for the first time in almost 2 years. It's a shame we don't see him in much movies these days. Repeat the steps with the 2 credits left. I'll just use Brad Pitt and Christoph Waltz as the names. Press V for the move tool and adjust any spacing between the names. Press T again to access the type tool and click on the bottom of the artboard. Enter the title Fight Night, but press enter between the words. In the character panel, just for the moment, I'm going to keep the type as Apparat Bold, but I am going to adjust some sizing. Set the text to 350 pixels and line spacing to 290 pixels. Select your move tool and drag it into a centered position. I want to make a quick adjustment. I'm just going to go back to my type tool and highlight the movie title. I'm going to make this extra bold and make the line height 296 pixels. I want to skew the movie title so that it rises as it goes from left to right. This is nice and easy to do. Press Ctrl or Command T to access the transform tool. Then if you're using Windows, hold in Ctrl and Shift, or if you're using a Mac, hold in Command and Shift. Then drag the little center point on the right upwards to create the slant. We now have all of our elements in place, so I'm just going to start adjusting them all. Click on the Model 1 layer. Press Ctrl or Command T for the Transform tool. I'm going to make the head slightly bigger by pulling at one of the points. Also, I want it to sit partially off the canvas. Go to the second model layer and again press Ctrl or Command T to access the Transform tool and make the head bigger and drag it slightly off the canvas. Shift click on both model layers and drag them into a more central position. Go back to the Fight Night layer. I want the movie title to be more prominent. I'm going to select the character to be heavy. Input 430 pixels for the text size. And insert 355 pixels for the line height. Use the up arrow key just to bump the title up. Press T for your type tool and highlight the movie title text. I want to use the font that we downloaded earlier, so select Nexa Rust Sans in the character drop down panel with the black 2 option selected below it. Press V for your move tool and adjust the position so that it looks similar to mine. Make your finite layer active and drag it onto a new layer icon to make a copy of it. In the character panel above, change the colour to black. Let's change the black 2 option to black shadow 2, which will add a nice little shadow effect to our text. Drag the black layer below the original pink title layer so that we now have the nice bright pink text on top and black as the shadow. OK, so we're nearly there. I want to repeat that text look for the actor credits at the top. So click on each actor's layer and change the text to Nixa Rust. Use your move tool to adjust the spacing between actors. I think that's looking a lot better now. I'm going to make a copy of the Michael Fassbender layer by dragging it onto the new layer icon. Using the new layer, I'm going to change the text to black shadow 2 and the colour to black. And like we did for the movie title, drag the new layer below the old one so that we get this nice looking effect, where the pink is at the top and the black is the shadow. Repeat this step with each actor. I think that looks great, and to think we made it using some stock images and some quick effects. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. My channel is fairly new. I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe and comment if you found this video useful. Thanks again for watching.